Donald Trump will meet with evangelical leaders in Florida later on this week. Religious voters, of course, remain a very strong source of support for the Republican candidate. And, you know, religion and politics often go hand in hand. In fact, a new survey found out this week, and it confirms nearly 64% of Americans have heard clergy bring up political issues. 1 in 10 have even heard pastors speak out against a political candidate, even though it's against the rules. And we're talking about tax rules, as it happens to be, that Donald Trump wants to actually change. Joining me now to discuss, Deacon Keith Fournier and Kirsten Haglund. Deacon, first and foremost, where we are in this country with respect to religion, I know that you are a believer of separation between church and state with regard to the Johnson Amendment, but more and more people believe that the church is the place where we should get these sort of messages, where we should be helped making it the biggest decision of our lives, in many parts, who's going to lead us in our country.
Charles, it's important to remember that the free exercise of religion is meant to free the church to play the role she's supposed to play in the civil society. She has a right to speak into the culture. The Johnson Amendment, unfortunately in its application, has stepped on that free exercise of religion. Trump has called for its repeal. I support its repeal. I think the church is supposed to be a moral voice, a prophetic voice, and it's time to free her up. The founders intended that. Notice it wasn't freedom of worship. It's free exercise. And not only the church, but Christian associations and corporations. The IRS didn't exist when the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights was drafted, and it protects the free exercise of religion. We have allowed a bloated bureaucracy called the Internal Revenue Service to become the arbiter of when the church can speak out on moral issues, because the IRS determines that those moral issues are, quote, political. For example, the dignity of every human life. The church must speak to the dignity of every human life. The church has taken the lead in standing up against slavery, against eugenics. Imagine if the Johnson Amendment had been applied then. So we need to get rid of the Johnson Amendment. Donald Trump is right. And we need to let the free exercise of religion be what the founders intended it to be in the American polity.
Kirsten?
Well, and with all due respect to the deacon, and I'm a Christian myself, and thank you so much for what you do, but I tend to disagree, because the speaking out of political issues is not what the Johnson Amendment refers to. It's about the resources of the church and the specific priest or pastor speaking out about a specific candidate. So that's not what we're talking about. And of course, churches should be talking about these very important social issues that they and their congregants care about. But we already have the free exercise of religion, and choosing who you're going to vote for is not exercising of a religion. That's a political activity. Religious activities are about sharing the gospel. They're about serving the community. And those things, of course, the church should do, and they should be doing. But we don't have to have the repeal of the amendment for the church to be able to exercise what it does best, and that's lead people to Christ.
We do because the amendment is being interpreted by the IRS. For example, if
then
you
that should change. We don't necessarily need to repeal the amendment.
Well, that is the amendment.
You and I both know, we're both lawyers. The IRS determines whether or not when the church speaks out on an issue, it has the effect of endorsing a political party. Well, what does that mean? When I speak out, for example, when I preach and teach about the dignity of every human life, that's the reason we care not only for the unborn child, but for people in jail, for people who are hungry.
But millions of pastors all over this country are already doing that, and they're not in jail.
It's also a chilling effect. It's a chilling effect. We have had, I know this, I've been a lawyer for 37 years. We have Christian groups who are not getting their exemption because the Internal Revenue Service doesn't like what they have to say about
one quick word from Kirsten.
About marriage and family.
At the end of the day, the longer that the church has been associated with politics, they've been viewed negatively across the board, especially by millennials. They need to get in the business of serving the community, not serving power.